What's cracking, people? It's your man, Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, representing high-level technicians operating globally and beyond. So listen, today I wanted to get into part 2 of a 3-part series covering confidence versus charisma. Now, in part 1, I asked the question, who do you think you are? This is for men by men. So this is me asking you, who do you think you are as men? I'll link that video down in the description below for this. But basically, here in part 2, I'm going to cover the question, who do you think she is? Who do you think the woman is that you desire to acquire? And beyond that, who are women to you? What is your relationship with women? How does that dynamic play itself out in your journey? This is all about the masculine mastery journey. And just for reference, once again, I'm going to present my definition of what confidence is. Confidence is the expectation of potential as the result of knowledge and experience. Charisma, in my definition, is the manner by which you deliver your personality. Now, for men, those tend to be a combination of trial and error, actually doing things, exploring things, physically going through various steps, interacting with the environment, interacting with other people, other men along our journey of development. In terms of our confidence, true confidence is forged in the fire of experience. But also, it can be said that our charisma is developed in the same way. It is born out of other men observing our behavior patterns, observing our look, observing how we project and present our personality. Hopefully we have men who are honest with us enough to say, hey, this is how you present, this is who you present yourself to be, this is your signature. Greater examples of that briefly can be described as nicknames given to athletes: Air Jordan, the Answer Allen Iverson, Gary the Glove Payton, Iron Mike Tyson, Carl the Mailman Malone. So the list goes on and on, but the point is the attributes of how they presented. It was their calling card. It was their signature. It was how they presented their charismatic presence to the world. And then there was women. No, I'm just kidding. This ain't that channel. This ain't that kind of channel. No, but today we're going to explore what the relationship with women is, what it has been in your formative years, and what it means in the modern sense, and also going forward. Now, first, what we like to do in this space is I usually give a 5-dimensional observational breakdown of women. In this case, I'm going to give you 3. And these are the 3 most prominent dimensions that I use when observing a woman. That first dimension is class / octane grade. Shout out to the master teacher BGS IBMOR for providing us with the octane scale and the soon to be released New York Times best-selling book by the same name, hint hint. But in any case, that's one dimension. The second dimension is where she ranks on her female group hierarchy, or within her female group hierarchy. That is presented in the Seduction scriptures in a section that really focuses in on sort of the nature of her relationship within the various groups of women that service her navigation through society. That's number 2. The third is clearly her SMV rating, and I'll provide links to videos that I've done on all 3 of those dimensions down below. But the point of this exercise is to give you a guide, give you a chart, give you a metric so that you can see a woman objectively. You can view a woman objectively. So many times, especially in this society, we get this overly fantasized presentation of what a woman is and what she should be. You got, oh man, this hair, she's got this amazing skin. Look at her clothing, look at that body, look at her feet. All of these things are over sensationalized, and it really takes away from what a seasoned man would be observing about a woman who he potentially desires to acquire. So I want to put that out there, out front first. So now you have this sort of space between you and the fantasy, and now you get closer to reality. Next, over the course of this discussion, I want to ask you some key questions to hopefully spark the thought process and memory so that you can process what's being said and present it in this discussion. But also, I want to present some tangible responses and some observations that I've made and that I've corroborated with other men who are on their journey of masculine mastery to present to you in this discussion. So first, I'm going to ask you, how does a woman's presence or absence affect your journey of masculine mastery? Now, ideally, as men, as we developed and grew from boyhood on through our developmental steps, we have formative years. And in those formative years, hopefully we were able to interact in a space of discovery with the opposite sex. And those instances of discovery hopefully turned into formative milestones. For example, the first kiss, right? First time you held hands, probably in kindergarten or in middle school. The first dance, and so on and so forth. Especially, so this is geared towards the younger men and the younger adult men. A story that I can remember, it really stands out to me, is when I played freshman basketball. Now, we're originally from the city of Chicago, but my mother was a travel nurse for a while, and so we moved to the suburbs for her new job for a period of time, and I played freshman basketball. I distinctly remember that, this is one of those situations where the athletes practiced right next to the cheerleaders. And I promise you, there was this one cheerleader. She was Italian. I'll never forget it. She looked just like Kelly Kapowski. If I showed you the yearbook picture, you'd be like, dang, you went to school with Kelly Kapowski. But long story short, she asked me to go to the movies. Now, I had no clue what was going on. I didn't know the social hierarchy. I didn't understand. I was a freshman. I just wanted to play basketball and do my classwork, right? I did not know that the following Monday, word would get around school that we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I had no clue. And frankly, at the time, I was offended because I didn't have a say-so in this whole relationship thing that just materialized out of nowhere without me even knowing or having any input. So at that point in my life, I lacked good, sound, masculine mentorship. And that's another reason why a lot of guys are fortunate to have spaces like this right now, because had I had spaces like this where I could actually reach out to a masculine mentor who had been where I was, I would have probably handled it a little bit more smoothly. But what I did was I just started ignoring her. I literally just ignored her. I didn't call her on the phone. I didn't speak to her in the hallways. I didn't hang out with her or anything like that. And after a while, she got the point, and she made a point of, quote unquote, breaking up with me during the lunch period. So I was like, meh, whatever. Ultimately, we moved back to the city, and I ended up going to 3 different proms. So that's another story for another day. The takeaway from this, gentlemen, is that the first aspect of who you think a woman is, or what a female is, especially a young woman, is a source of exploration. She is a source of exploration, especially in your formative years, especially when you're younger. Next, what is your relationship with women. And when I use that term now, I'm referring to the familiar women, or the familial women, like your mother, your aunt, your grandmother, your sister, your cousin, even your teacher. What role did they service in your life, and how did that evolve / deteriorate over time? These are honest questions that we need to ask, and I believe that it's the responsibility of us, the content creators, in various facets of the manosphere, to hopefully provide all of those missing conversations that many men didn't have in those formative years with their older brothers, their cousins, their uncles, their fathers, their grandfathers, barbers, or teachers, or even faith-based leaders who simply could not have these conversations at the level of from the level of diverse backgrounds, from the level of experiences that we collectively provide here in this space. Not just because not every man has the same experience or background, but because not every young man, adult man, or mature man had the access to men who had already gone down the paths that they prospectively would go down, so that they did not have access to these lessons and these valuable pieces of information to make informed decision on their journey. Now, very few men from those categories that I mentioned before, with the older brothers, cousins, uncles, so forth, very few men are privy to the conversations that women, including the mothers, the cousins, the sisters, aunts, whomever that I mentioned before, will have in a no holds barred and non-judgmental atmosphere or space. And let me be raw with you, a space that's provided by the type of man who can get their mask off. And this is the unfiltered truth that we've come to appreciate with spaces like this. Your uncles, especially your religious leaders or whomever, were not made privy to the conversations of an unfiltered, unmasked woman, and what they had to say and what they had to relate to a man who was the side piece, to a man who was the object of her affection at work, to a man who she actually respected and submitted to outside of the presence of the people in her communal space, the people in her family, the people at her education centers, the people who can make a judgment call on her social standing. This is the type of man that will bring out the information and the education about true female nature that, unfortunately, the majority of men will go their entire lives without receiving. And so, number 2 on this point list of what women are and what women should be is a source of education. Now, this one is a bit more challenging because, like I said, it takes a certain type of man who has a certain type of development, who's traveled a distance on his path of masculine mastery to really bring out the lessons about female nature. And to that point, most men will need to be re-educated and re-socialized in order to fully receive and process the raw, unfiltered, non-fantasy, unidealized reality of female nature. And that's just in reference to the girl next door type. Let's not even begin to discuss the true queen bees of the population. All right, so gentlemen, here's some high-level game for you. All right, so go ahead and hit that PayPal or Cash App. The girl next door is on a constant quest to better relate to her ideal man. Okay? The queen bee experiences men through her hierarchy group and is probably the only type of woman who will self-isolate in order to maintain her power dynamic. All right? That's on another level. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But that's just to give you a little bit of insight as to how much information, how much of a true education you can receive just by understanding what you are observing and what a woman is to a man on his journey of masculine mastery. So right now I'm going to ask you the question from the beginning of this discussion. Who do you think she is? And based on the most recent point that I brought out, I'm going to give you this third point of what women are in terms of the dynamic with you, the man. Number 3, women are a source of manipulation. Now, of course, that can be a controversial word that can be taken so many different ways, blah, 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 blah. But let's look at this in a balanced view. Let's look at this from the viewpoint of a masculine master. You ready? All right. Men create. Women manipulate. Men build a house. Women fill the house. Men build and lay out the structure of the corporation and the office. Women are the best office managers. You can go Google that information. If you've worked in corporate America, you're familiar with this dynamic already. The point of what I'm saying is this. You have to understand your world, and you have to understand the role that a woman that you allow in your world will play and what she will do. Why I say that number 3, that women are the source of manipulation, is this. When you provide the space, when you allow a woman into your life, into your mission, it should be the result of an objective evaluation that you've refined over the course of your journey of masculine mastery. It shouldn't just be you choosing any old woman with a pretty face, slim waist, cute feet, and a Coke bottle shape. Feel free to write that down. But in any case, this should obviously be someone who has the ability to manipulate the things in your world for the benefit of the journey. And of course, let's be honest, manipulation can go the other way, where women manipulate men to take advantage of them, to relieve them of their resources, to do all sorts of things. But the way that a man establishes the good type of manipulation is via boundaries. And of course, I discussed this in my book, The Seduction Scriptures, on page 128. Boundaries are what establish you as a man. What you are willing to do and not do is what establishes your presence, your sovereignty. And that is what women crave. Because should you decide to incorporate a woman into your world for more than just the first 2 points that I brought out, the first 2 being exploration and education, she needs to be able to bring a manipulation that adds harmony to your space. And now this brings us to the final point at the end of the day, gentlemen. Once you have those first 3, once you have someone or some women, okay, let's be clear, this is the select manosphere. We talk about rosters here. Once you've discovered those dynamics and the women that you allow into your space, and you've successfully disqualified the women who do not possess those things, you can now enjoy and manage that dynamic the way nature intended it. Here's number 4, and the final point. Responding to the question, who do you think she is? Number 4, a source of inspiration. Like I said in the Seduction Scriptures, you should drink in your muse like a fine brandy. Enjoy her like an exhilarating trip through the waters of a winding river channel, and position your relationship like a blue chip commodity that appreciates in value with the return on investment over the course of your time together. Gentlemen, in the final part of this series, Confidence versus Charisma, I'm going to answer the question, what do you think this is? So I invite you to come back for that discussion happening very soon. Select men, pre-select men, non-select men. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, this is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying, stay sharp and mission focused. Later.